this video, I'll be making a Christmas art project with a lot of bling. Hi there, all my crafty friends. Yes, it's Christmas in August. And if you're new to my channel, here's a big warm welcome. If you want to see tutorials for various types of crafts, you are in the right place. Okay, if you're ready, let's make a mess. I have two canvases, a large one and a small one that will be piggybacked. And I'm giving both of them a heavy coat of gesso as a primer right now. I bought this beautiful rice paper from napkins.com. They have a great selection of rice papers and napkins. I'll leave you a link in the description box below. I'm using a water brush to wet the rice paper so it will tear easily. But if you don't have a water brush, you can just use a paintbrush and some water and it will be just as effective. You do want to tear the edges though and not cut them because you don't want a sharp edge. It'll blend in a lot easier. I'm using Mod Podge to glue the picture to the canvas, and after that I gave the picture a coat of Mod Podge. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm filming from Las Vegas, Nevada in the United States. There's a white border around the picture now and I don't really like it, so I'm using some really watery paint and sponges to fill in all the white, making sure to get the side edges as well. And I'm using all the same colors as what's in the picture, shades of blues and grays. If you're enjoying this video, make sure you give me a like and share it with one of your friends. I'm going to make this project look old and worn by adding a crackle finish. I'm using Pentart's Fine Line Crackle. This is a two-part system and I'm brushing on step 1 right now, and I'll let it dry for a couple of hours before I go on to step 2. This is one of my favorite crackle methods. I love this one. It gives you nice large cracks that look just like porcelain. And now that step 1 is dry, I'm moving on to step 2, covering the entire canvas with a very light coat. This step is an amber color, so make sure it doesn't go on too thick in any one area or drip. You'll be able to see it later on when it dries. After step 2 dries, you'll be able to start seeing the cracks. And I'm going to go over the canvas quickly with my heat gun to deepen those cracks. If you don't have a heat gun, you can just use a blow dryer. You'll get the same results. After that, it's time to make some magic happen. I'm brushing some dark gray mica powder over the entire canvas with a soft brush. And when I wipe it off, it'll stay just in the crack. And if you don't have mica powder, you can use eyeshadow. Almost all of us have some of that. Now I'm going to take it outside and give it a quick coat of clear gloss spray just to protect everything I just did. Okay, we're going to do something a lot of fun now. Get out your disposable gloves because we are surely going to make a mess. I'm mixing some paints with water to make them really thin and runny. I'm using white, the same dark blue that I used on the top canvas, and a light and dark gray. Click the bell if you want to be notified every time I upload a new video. I traced the top canvas so I would have a point of reference and know where to pour the paint. Yep, we're going to pour the paints on the canvas and swish them around. I put my canvas on some of those pizza box thingies so the canvas would be elevated for the paint to drip off. Hey, you gotta use whatever you can find. And I know I said 2 shades of gray, but I actually used light, medium, and dark gray. I'm saving the dark blue for the very end. And now it's time to swish around and watch all the cool designs it makes. This piece is being donated to a fundraiser called Love Never Fails. It's their annual silent auction event to raise money for an organization called Hope and Care Outreach. It's a U.S. nonprofit organization that exists to serve the most vulnerable people in Liberia. They provide homes for orphans, a lunch program for children, and for many, it's the only meal that they will receive that day. They teach farming and provide wells so villages will have access to clean water. They also have a medical clinic to bring quality health care to these villages. I'll leave a link to their website in case you'd like to check it out. Now I'm adding the blue sporadically, just here and there, and then back to swishing. I didn't want the edges to show any white canvas, so anything that didn't get covered when the paint was dripping, I touched up by scooping up some of the paint that had dripped off and dabbed it on the edges of the canvas wherever it was white. There's a lot of paint on here, so it'll need to dry overnight. I'm making some clay flourishes to go on the corners of the bottom canvas, and I'm using Bass air dry clay. It's one of my favorites. I will be gluing them to the canvas while the clay is still wet so they can mold around the corner of the canvas. Oops, and I almost picked that clay up with my hands. I could have messed up all the detail on that piece and had to make it over. I'm pressing the clay very delicately so I don't mess up the detail. What type of tutorial would you like to see more of? Mixed media and decoupage? Mason jar decorating? Or more craft videos just like this one? Let me know in the comments below. And this will need to dry overnight. I'm using pre-mixed tile grout to fill in any deep cracks in the clay. Sometimes clay cracks as it's drying. I'm putting it in the cracks and then smoothing it with a damp brush. For smaller cracks, I'm just brushing it on. I'm giving the flourishes a coat of gray paint as a primer, and then a coat of silver paint for shimmer, because I love shimmer. Now I'm doing all the same steps as I did with the top canvas. I'm adding the crackle varnish, step 1 and step 2, then the heat gun, and then finally some mica powder. Then I'll spray it with some clear gloss again to protect my work. When this is done, it'll look very similar to marble. I'm using a vintage black antique solution to cast some shadows. I'm putting it under the flourishes, on the canvas, and then also on the flourishes, then wiping with a soft cloth. It'll stay in all the crevices to make all the detail on the flourishes stand out. I temporarily glued some stir sticks on some paper flowers, and I'm going to dunk them in some Mod Podge now to stiffen them up a little bit. After I dunk them, I'm wiping off the excess Mod Podge with a paintbrush, and then I'll set them to dry overnight. When they're completely dry, I'll add some antiquing to these as well. I'm using the same vintage black antiquing solution as I did earlier, Only this time I'm thinning it out a little bit with some water. I don't want it to be really dark on the flowers since they're light pastel colors. I'm brushing it on and then wiping it off with a soft cloth. And it looks pretty scary because your whole flower turns completely black. But once you wipe it, it'll stay just in the cracks and come off nicely everywhere else. When I'm done with them, they will no longer look like paper flowers. These flowers turned out so great. The antiquing made the colors very muted, which is what I wanted for this piece. A few of the flowers had a really ugly gold center in them, which I removed. This piece is going to be in all shades of silvers, blues, and grays. I found a product called diamond dots. They were sparkling and calling me by name in the store, so I had no choice but to buy them. I'm going to add them to the center of some of the flowers. And make sure you stick around till the end of this video to see what else I do with them. They're actually for the diamond painting canvases, but I'm not using them for that. I'm getting a little bit more creative. Once the antiquing and glue dried, I added a little silver rub just to the edges of the flower petals. Now I'm making some ferns that I'll be putting along with the flowers. The molds are very delicate and very difficult to do with clay, so I'm using a product called cream paste. I love this product. It's great for delicate, shallow molds, and it dries flexible, which I'll need for this project. And this will need to dry overnight. Before I unmold the ferns, I'm wiping off all of the excess dried cream paste with an alcohol wipe. I'm painting the ferns gray, and then I'll add some silver paint, just like I did on the flourishes. Once the paint is dry, I'll antique them as well with the black solution. After the antiquing dries, I'll give them a coat of silver rub to make them sparkle. Now is when it's going to get fun. I love when it's time to put it all together. I'm starting out by gluing the two canvases together using a gel medium. I put a couple of marks on the bottom canvas so I know where to place the top canvas once I have the gel on it. Once I have it in place, I'll let it dry overnight. I'm using some black ink and a Tim Holtz dauber to add a black edge to the top and bottom canvas, just for effect. Then I'm antiquing with the black solution between the two canvases. And then I'll give the entire canvas a coat of gloss varnish to protect everything I just did. Now we're going to do something really interesting. I'm going to use Mod Podge to glue some cheesecloth in the crease between the two canvases. I'm cutting the cheesecloth into 4 strips, and I'm unfolding them and cutting off the selvaged ends because they're too clean cut. It needs to be more ragged. I'm holding the cheesecloth on both sides and pulling it apart and making it look more ragged. Now I'll attach the cloth to the canvas using Mod Podge, and I'm scrunching it up as I go. I have some great videos coming up in the future. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of them. While the Mod Podge is still wet, I'm sprinkling some glitter all over the cheesecloth. If you've been watching any of my previous videos, you know that I love things that glitter and sparkle. Well, the flourishes weren't sparkling enough for me, so I'm going to add some silver foil. Right now I'm adding the adhesive, and it goes on white but dries clear and very sticky. Now that the adhesive is dry, I'm rubbing on the foil. And now I'm happy. I'm adding some gloss varnish now to the flourishes to protect them. I laid out all the flowers and ferns where I want them to be, so now I'll be gluing them to the canvas. I'm using my Shore Bonder cordless glue gun. It is such a pleasure to work without a cord in your way. You can find a link below in my favorite tools section. Alrighty, as promised, more fun with diamond dots. I'm going to put them in clusters all around the canvas. On top of the ferns, on top of some of the flowers. They're going everywhere. I'm using my gloss varnish as a glue. It's pretty thick, so it works well as a glue. I'm dabbing it on pretty thick and then adding the diamond dots to that. Even with the glitter, I thought the cheesecloth was lacking a little something, so I added some silver rub here and there to add some sparkle. Click the picture on the right to be taken to a playlist with some similar videos that you may enjoy. Thanks so much for watching today.